stereotypes don't bother me. You can say all that other foolishness, but when you approach me with respect. You treat me with respect. I don't care what. I don't treat you any differently. From Jewish to white to Catholic to Irish to whatever. I don't treat them with any stereotypes. So don't treat me with such. I treat people the way I want to be treated. So, you can only give power to certain things, and I don't give power to what you may assume. Now, you treat me different, and you approach me different, I might have to handle you as such.
Stereotypes historically are rooted in hate and ignorance. But that goes two ways too, the same way as even stereotypes about other peoples and other races too. I just wouldn't pay attention to them. You know what I mean? You can't judge anybody, a book by its cover, you know what I'm saying, without knowing the person underneath and making judgments like that. It's kind of like I said, it's rooted in ignorance and hate.
Hi, I'm Patty Smith with the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, and welcome to this special edition of Queued Up. Tonight, the Q is not for quarantine. Tonight, we're going to put that Q right in the middle of the word equality. And I am honored to share my role as host with none other than Houston rap legend Bun B. Bun and I are going to have some open and honest conversations with two very socially active Houston Texans. One, a former Houston Texan. In fact, he was a 2005 first-round draft pick defensive end Travis Johnson. The other, the young up-and-coming superstar who is no stranger to our show, safety Justin Reed. But perhaps the coolest part of this show is we have invited 8 kids from the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston. 8 teenagers that are going to use this platform to not only speak with these athletes, but to share their thoughts, their feelings, and give us their perspective surrounding social justice. All right, and we welcome in Bun B, Travis Johnson, and Justin Reed. Guys, thank you so much for being on here. I'm going to start with a little football. Football season is right around the corner. NFL looking to return. Justin, I want to start with you. I know we've had you on the show before. You talked about doing a lot of off-season training, but now as it's getting closer, kind of give us sort of an update on kind of the climate, where you are, and especially in the training process.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time kind of back and forth between Houston and Arizona. Before a couple of weeks back, really the focus is just on fitness, making sure you stay in shape conditioning-wise, stay in the weight room, get stronger, get your weight and your body composition to where you want it to be. And as we start approaching training camp, now you just really start to focus in on football-specific movements. That's the biggest reason why I like going out to Arizona is I go out and train with a couple of DB coaches I know out there. Being Will Sullivan and Ryan Clark. And we go out and really start focusing in on getting the footwork right, the technique right, getting back comfortable, being in cleats on the field, so that way you hit the ground running whenever we report back to the facility for training camp.
The big news that came out this week, obviously everybody has heard, some Houston Texans and some Dallas Cowboys testing positive for COVID. How does that sort of affect your thought process and your approach to returning?
Yeah, well, I feel like COVID is, it's different from the flu, obviously. But much the same way, I feel like what's going to happen is it's just going to have to eventually run its course, and the best thing that we can do about it is just limit the spread of it to where it's not overwhelming our hospitals or emergency care centers. And really just making sure that if you are infected, that you take proper precaution, making sure you're quarantining for the 2 or 3 weeks that the doctors ask you to stay, and just taking the proper measures that way. My honest feeling is that I think eventually it's just going to have to run its course. And then once everybody builds up the immunity and antibodies to it, it's going to be able to get the ground rolling.
And Travis Johnson, you, of course, have been out of the league for about 10 years now. I don't know where the time goes, but just your thoughts, still very involved with the Texans as an ambassador. You do some radio, very much involved in the Houston sports scene. Just your thoughts on really the return of football, sports in general, in light of all that's going on.
Well, I think that, with the return of sports, I think is always a good thing. I think the guys need to get ready to probably use their platform as far as, because it's, I mean, the eyes are going to be on them. No sports for the last, 3-4 months. And then now all of a sudden we're going to get an influx of sports as far as baseball, football, a little basketball all at once. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But I'm excited just for the simple fact is, we get to change from the monotony of the quarantine life and get to watch something, that we enjoy watching, that we really enjoy seeing. And I think it's good for the soul all the time just to have sports in your life, period. I'm more concerned probably with the sports on the youth level because, there's kind of like no reason, to play if you don't have to. But at the same time, you feel bad for those kids that are seniors, that are juniors, that are counting on scholarships to maybe take them to the next level. And if they aren't able to play, I think that's probably the hardest thing to think about is how they're gonna is how all of this is gonna affect those young kids. I mean, for the pros, it's gonna take care of itself, but for the young kids, probably where my concern is the most.
And our third special guest, Bun B in the house. Bun, yes, you're a rapper, but so intertwined in the sports world. These guys, all these guys. You've probably been busier than anybody I know here in the last couple of weeks. First, I want to thank you for coming on here. But again, we see you everywhere. But how has all of this kind of affected you, what we've been talking about here with COVID?
Well, I mean, it's been rough, right? Because like for me, for my profession, right, as a recording artist, I'd say 75 to 80% of my job is performing, like live performances. And because of COVID right now, and I see certain restrictions being lifted in certain places for certain situations, but the reality is for me that I had to come to terms with was the possibility of not even working this year, right? Even when certain venues will open, it'll be at a lower percentage. I don't think contractually the people that promote my concerts and that are putting on my concerts are going to even be in a position to recoup the money that they pay me to perform if they're not allowed to have a venue that's filled up with enough people, right? And so I've resigned myself to the idea of not even working in 2020. So I don't take it lightly. I don't listen to conspiracy theories about people saying it's fake and it's made up and all of that stuff. This is a very real disease that's actually killing hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And so we have to be careful about how we move at a time like this and not really be selfish about our own individual wants and needs. Do I want football back? Absolutely. Do I miss basketball? You bet. Do I want to go see these Astros, get back to where they were and prove the world wrong about how they look at them? You bet. But at the same time, it's not worth the loss of human life. So we just got to be careful, take it at a slow pace, get it to where we need to get it in terms of lowering the infection rates as much as possible so that when we do come back outside fully, it's in a safe way.
All right. Well, Bun, you and I are going to take it together the rest of the way. Bun has agreed to be my co-host with these conversations. I want to bring in and introduce the kids from the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston. They are going to be on this with us for the rest of the way, hopefully having some open and honest conversations, hearing their perspectives, and really talking about all that's going on outside COVID, but really with all of the social justice, social injustice, however you want to look at it. I think we can really kind of hopefully have some great conversations here. So we've got Allura Boutte and Reggie Banks in the house. We've got Heaven Woods and Isaiah Lemuel, 14 and 17 years old. We have Stevie Roberts. We have Justice Thomas, Ayanna Hollins. They're together. And then we have Cora Bonner. So welcome into these kids. And, we, as I mentioned, all of you guys have been, Bun, Justin, and Travis, you're all socially active right now. Justin, this comes out this weekend, a whole spread in Houston Chronicle about how active Justin has been on social media. Everything regarding George Floyd. His brother Eric was one of the first ones that took a knee with Colin Kaepernick. Look at Travis. Travis had a 30 to 40 minute sit-down conversation with Cal McNair and Janice McNair about all this just this weekend. I think a great conversation and a great start. And Bun, I don't think anyone has been more active than you have been. But, with after George Floyd and the protests and things. But Justin, let me go back to you. You know, there was so much in this great article, this great story. I know this is very important. It means a lot to you, and I don't know if it's because you told us before your brother was always someone you looked up to and followed after, and I don't know if he leads this for you, but just tell us a little bit about why all of this has become so important to you.
Yeah, it's always just been close to me, from the beginning back in 2016. I've been close to it. I've seen it firsthand. I've always known what the true movement was about, even though the narrative was always getting hijacked and kind of pulled in different directions. It always came back to the root of the issue, which was police brutality. And I feel like my role has really been to clarify a bunch of the issues that may be misconstrued, misinterpreted, whether purposefully or not purposefully, and just kind of clarify issues and do my part in what I can to try and create a real change for oppressed peoples, because, words without actions are void. So I'm a firm believer in just doing my part and what I can do, using my platform as a way to support.
And Travis, your conversation, I watched the whole thing. It was about 40 minutes with Cal McNair, with Janice McNair, Hannah McNair. And I know that was something that you kind of initiated. Can you tell us how that came about and why?
Well, I looked at Cal as, as a friend, and I felt like, the conversation had to be had. I know he hadn't said anything at the time, and I just wanted to see. I really wanted to see where his thoughts were, where his mindset was, because I thought he had one of the biggest platforms, one of the biggest opportunities to say something that really move the needle and move the conversation. Because it's one thing for me, Bun, Justin to say things. It's another entirely different thing for the owner of a franchise like the Houston Texans to come out and say something to just encourage and say something to create change and to move the conversation. I think that's the biggest thing that I've been looking for is this, so many people, and I know Justin has seen it, because so many people, like, they don't believe that they're like, oh, what are y'all are talking, it's false, it's fake news. Well, it's not. That's just really what my thought process was to get the conversation out there and to figure out where do we go from here? Where do we go from here to make change?
And Bun, as I mentioned, no one's been more active on this front than you have, hosting the protests downtown along with some of your friends. But, can you talk to these kids about, why this is so important to you, and especially to take such an active role, because I think these kids are looking to do that and want to know how they can do it in their platform.
Well, initially, we do these things for the young people, right? I think it's important for us to try to leave the world better than we found it, right? So if there's anything that we can help enact change in that benefits the next generation, then I feel it's imperative that we do so. Every generation before us did that. They sacrificed some level of comfort, and in order for us to be able to achieve more than they were able to achieve in their generation, to help this entire nation progress, and to get us that much closer to a world where we're all looked at as equal. I applaud the young people on this call. I applaud the young people in general who actually care enough to say something and want to do something. And so it's up to us, the elders, to give them direction, give them education, give them information, and then give them examples of engagement, right? We have to show them that if you care about the world you live in and you want to affect change, but these are the things you need to know, and these are the things that you need to do. And so that's primarily the reason why I'm out there, right? Of course, I don't agree with, racism, whether it's, just, from a personal standpoint, whether it's systematic, whether it's judicial, or whether it's economic. I don't agree with any of it. But if you don't agree with these things, then you have to actively do something about it.
So let me hear from some of you kids out there, either raise your hand or unmute yourself if you've got somebody. So, okay, Justice, go ahead. You're hearing what these guys are saying. Well, how are you feeling about all that's going on, and what are you saying from your perspective?
Well, I feel like so as Bun B travels, and he sees the young people on the front lines protesting and yada yada, like there's different ways we can do things, not just go out and protest. We can use our social medias in positive ways. We can uplift others. We can ask our friends to come join us, and we can push others to join the movement.
So, Justice, you're absolutely right. This movement is multi-layered, and there are many different angles from which we have to address it. So some people are going to be on the front lines. They're going to be marching. Some people are going to concentrate more on legislation and policy. Some people are going to be organizers, right? But as long as you're a part of it in some form or fashion, right? So I think you make a great point of, having that conversation with your peers through social media, educating your peers through social media and engaging with people through social media. It's obviously a tool that young people are very adept at using. And so, yes, whatever platform you have available to you, I think is necessary. Just in case that wasn't clear, I don't want young people to think that just because they're not out marching, right, that they're not doing their part. I never thought I'd see a day where you had, hundreds and thousands of white people, holding signs and marching and screaming Black Lives Matter. You know what I'm saying? So even though we still have a way to go, the momentum is shifting, right?
Yeah.
The popular opinions of the past are starting to die off. People are actually more wanting of an inclusive community here collectively in America. And I think, in the last 20 years, right, in terms of making people address certain things in this country, we've done a really good job. And as crazy as COVID has been in terms of people losing jobs and, you guys not being able to go to school, it kind of put us all in a position where what happened to George Floyd was unavoidable, right? Because we weren't at work. We weren't, preoccupied with other things. We were like, everybody was at home kind of bearing witness to what happened to him at the same time.
No choice but to watch.
Exactly. And so because we don't have a lot of things to distract us from what's happening in the world, we're kind of forced to not only address it, but to form an opinion.
It's kind of funny you brought up the situation with COVID, as terrible as COVID is, but creating and fostering the perfect atmosphere or storm, if you will, for this movement to start. Because I've actually had that similar thought that, with everyone having the extra time, free time, it really created a favorable situation as far as just the human rights activism side of this movement for everyone to be able to pay attention to what's going on and not be able to hide from it. I think that you really said that very eloquently.
Thank you. I have a question for the young people in here. Have any of you ever felt like someone was being racist against you, or felt like someone tried to make you uncomfortable somewhere, or even had someone actually just try to denigrate you and call you out of your name? Justice, I see you muted yourself.
So this is coming from personal experience. One time I was walking in a corner store, and there was this dude following him around, and he said he didn't trust me, so he asked me to leave the store. So I did, but then when I had told my mom, she didn't like that at all. So she had went back and she had talked to the man, and I don't know what happened after that, but I feel like I didn't do anything. I just walked in the store, I was looking around, and I feel like because of my complexion, he thought I was like suspicious, and I didn't feel like I didn't appreciate that at all.
How did it make you feel?
I felt attacked because I'm just an innocent boy looking for like a drink or something in a corner store, and he's just like assuming things that weren't even close to being true.
See, these are the kind of things that we're fighting against, Justice. You shouldn't have to feel a certain way. You shouldn't be preyed upon as if you're an animal or something like that, and have someone project their prejudices upon you. You should be able to live in a world where you feel comfortable going into any shared space, right? Doing whatever it is that you feel you want to do, as long as it's legal and not criminal, right? And not have any general assumptions laid upon you simply because of the color of your skin.
I feel like we all go through a moment, especially throughout our childhood, people of color, whenever we hit a moment where we're by ourselves, maybe away from our parents, and we go through an uncomfortable situation that makes us really realize that, wow, people actually look at me differently just because of the color of my skin. I know I have You just told the story about yours. I feel like everyone has reached that moment. And I know that's even affected the way that I behaved whenever I was younger. I'm a little bit closer in age to you guys, so maybe we have similar experiences. But even like, I wouldn't want to go into certain places with my hood on just because I knew that the impression that might put around people, other people might have put my own life or safety in danger. So I know you guys are still going through similar situations like that, and that's exactly what we're talking about. That's the stigma that we need to change and get rid of in America.
We, as you know, myself, Travis, and Justin, that's our job, is to, one, make sure we're protecting you, and two, making sure that we help create a world where that isn't even your concern. Because
Yeah.
I can tell you, there are many children in this country that don't look like you, that don't ever have to worry about the things that you have to worry about. It's not right. It's not fair. And I can speak for my fellow guests on here that we're not going to stand for it. But we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that you have the same opportunities that they have, that you can walk this world without fear, without worries about how people are going to treat you, what somebody's going to say to you, and how people are going to react when they see you. It's just not fair. It's not fair to you, and it's never been fair. And we got to work very hard to change that. And it's going to take the help of white people to help stand in the gap with us. Make no mistake about it. Black people cannot do this on their own. White people have to stop being indifferent to this situation. They have to be active. They have to be vocal. And they have to stand with us against racism, and not just be like, well, I'm not racist, so it doesn't concern me.
Actively.
Anti-racist as well. And you have to hold racist people in your immediate circle accountable for their actions and for their point of view, their worldview.
And just adding on to that too, it's also our responsibility to educate you too, so that when you are put in situations, you know how to handle yourself responsibly, and you will not be taken advantage of by people trying to take advantage of your ignorance. You know what I mean? You just not knowing the situation. And that's what we're here to do too, is educate you and just tell you the history of things and kind of how to approach and tackle these situations that you may find yourself in.
So a couple points there, and you know, Bun, when you speak to, there's white kids out there. I mean, I can honestly say I've got 2 white daughters, and they wouldn't think twice if they get pulled over for a speeding ticket. They're all over the car looking for their license, whatever. They wouldn't think twice about walking into a 7-Eleven with a hoodie on. So, you know, what is it from you guys, and you kind of alluded to it, but from even, I'd like to hear from the kids. You want white people to stand by you to help, and look, we're not all Cal McNair with this huge platform. We're just average white people who, you know, what can we do? What do you want to see? What's helpful at this point?
But I think, Patty, I think it's the everyday. It's not just. I mean, Cal is, you know, that's the top 1%. I think it's the other 99% that we looking to say, you know what, we need y'all to step up. We need y'all to speak up, like Bun said, when you know when our voices can't be heard, because we are the minority. And if they stand up against it, and they say this is wrong, and continue to say this is wrong, and continue to try to make change, I think then it's gonna change. But you know, it's not just the 1% say it. We need 99% to say it. We need the rest of the world to continue to say this is not wrong. We need true equality from our school system on down. You know, and if that doesn't change, then we can't make any progress.
And I think both these guys have both kind of mentioned things that everyone kind of has a role that we're all playing with the situation that's going on. And the number one thing that I would say to everyone is you need to vote. And some of you kids aren't of age to be able to vote yet. But whenever you do get to that point, the number one way to use your voice is to make sure you're registered to vote. You vote. Your mayor is an elected official. The sheriff is an elected official. Your politicians are all elected. And make sure that we, as a people, are holding them accountable whenever they're running for their positions and they say they're going to make these changes, that they actually follow through and do them, and not just have all the talk just to be elected. That we hold our politicians accountable. We email them, we talk to them, in order to have the real change be put into effect politically and judiciously.
Well, and the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston is starting a social justice initiative. In fact, it kicks off on June 22nd, and it's called Be the Change You Want to See. And kids, if you want to chime in, I want to know what does that mean? Be the change you want to see. What does that mean to you guys? And what are you working on? What are you hoping to accomplish with that? And what can maybe these guys or any of us help you with to do that? Go ahead, Justice.
Okay, so when we're doing the Be the Change You Want to See program, that type of thing, so we're basically just saying that we want every young person to come and join us and help us make a movement. We can't do everything by ourselves. We have to do it in mass numbers. And with the adults like you guys, y'all can help us by like maybe start a camp for kids and like tell them like what's going on and like open their eyes to see the real world.
I agree with that, Justice. Also, I think, I mean, I don't want to make it seem like it's nothing, but I think you guys got to hold each other accountable as well, though. I think when you look at your brother, your sister next to you, and if they screwing up, man, pull them aside. Even though they might be older than you, anything, pull them aside. Tell them, listen, guys, they want you to be screwed up. They want you to keep you at the bottom of the barrel. Just a word of encouragement might change anybody's life. I know I wasn't the best student in class. I know I wasn't. But every day I looked at my parents. My parents just continued to encourage me. You don't have parents. I had a friend that went to Harvard with my sister, and they continued to encourage me because they knew they want you to be a statistic. They want you to be somebody that's unreliable. But if you sit there, you hold your brother accountable, there's nothing y'all can't do together, man. And I think that's the biggest thing about this conversation. Like Bun said, the young people, man, if y'all are together, there's nothing y'all can't achieve.
Yeah, man. I'd also love to be a resource too. Just talking about you guys creating that. Yeah, talk to Patty. Resources that I could just be able to come and just speak to you guys too. Would absolutely love to do that.
So guys, Reggie, Allura, any of you, this is your chance. Ask these guys some questions, whatever you want. It can be about this, you can sports, whatever. I want to open it up to you. We have you on here. You guys have been great with your ideas, sharing what you're going through with us, but I want to give you the opportunity to talk to either Travis, Justin, or just go ahead, raise your hand. I'll call on you so you don't talk over yourselves. Go ahead, Reggie.
I do have one important question, and it's been bothering me because I see it a lot now. I just want to ask all three of them, how do they feel about the whole all lives matter thing when it's mostly African Americans are the ones that's being killed by more officers, and then on top of that, we're like portraying this vibe that it's okay to kill our own brothers in the world. But I just want to know during this racial time, like, why are people saying more all lives matter rather than Black lives matter? I just feel like this is a way of trying to throw us off track. So that's how I really want to know what you guys are feeling about that, because I'm seeing it a lot. All lives matter, and it's just like, okay, yes, all lives matter, but that's not the point. And that's not the point that's at stake right now. More African Americans are getting killed. So right now the focus should be on African American lives matter, no justice, no peace, stuff like that. But right now I'm seeing all lives matter, and I just want to know, what are you guys feeling about that?
So that goes back to the conversation about the narrative, about controlling the narrative, the meaning of the movement. That goes back to how when the original protest started with the kneel, it was fighting over whether the kneel meant that we were protesting police brutality, which we were, or we were disrespecting the flag, which everyone can agree with, at least now, 4 years later, that we weren't doing. So the All Lives Matter movement, no one is saying that nobody else's life doesn't matter. No one is saying that African Americans' life means more than anyone else's. What we're fighting for is pure equality. And the All Lives Matter movement, in a lot of ways, has just been a distraction and a fight over the narrative. It really is just, and that's part of what I've been talking about. Like, they also mentioned people talking about, well, what about, you talking about police brutality, but then what about black on black crime or things like that? You know what I mean? They start bringing out all types of things out of left field. It's like, okay, no one is saying that that isn't an issue too. The same way that white on white crime is an issue. Same way Asian on Hispanic crime is an issue. No one is saying that isn't an issue, but the issue at hand is that African American people and people of color are being systematically profiled and murdered at a rate significantly 2.5 times higher than our brothers and sisters of different races, that being our white brothers and sisters. So don't let that be a distraction from what the actual issue at hand is.
Heaven and Isaiah, I saw you guys raise your hands over there. Did you have a question for one of these guys?
So I have a question for all of them. I want to know how y'all feel about people of other races saying the N word, because I personally think it's really disrespectful and like I feel offended by it. Like no matter like what way they're using it in or the terms.
I think, I mean, you said, you know how I feel about it just by my look. I think the word shouldn't be used. I mean, end of the day is, it's not their word. And it shouldn't be our word, to be honest with you. But at the same time, I think it's totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And you gotta make sure the right people are informed, and they gotta understand it's not gonna be allowed around me any way possible, any way, shape, or form. You're not gonna use that word around me. You're not gonna disrespect me with that word, and I'm not having it. So, I mean, no, hell no.
Yeah, I think it's a derogatory term. 100% shouldn't be used. I feel like each culture has their term specific to their culture that is meant to be derogatory, to be dehumanizing to that specific group. I don't want to go through the list for every different culture and ethnicity's terms, but yeah, that's the one obviously for African Americans, and I don't support it being used.
All right, Cora, Stevie, anybody else? You guys have been a little quiet there. Does any? Okay, Cora.
Laura has something to say.
Hi. How do you feel about the certain stereotypes they give us about like with the whole every black person like watermelon, fried chicken, and all that other stuff?
You said how I feel about the stereotypes. Well, I mean, I don't eat watermelon around white people. I ain't gonna need a lie to you. But everybody got stereotypes. But I'm not gonna feed into they stereotypes regardless. You know, just we are our own people. You know what I'm saying? We are our own people. You carry yourself with pride. You carry yourself how you want to carry yourself, but always carry yourself with pride. I mean, the stereotypes don't bother me. You can say all that other foolishness, but when you approach me with respect. You treat me with respect. I don't care what. I don't treat you any differently. You know, from Jewish to white to Catholic to Irish to whatever. I don't treat them with any stereotypes. So don't treat me with such. I treat people the way I want to be treated. So I mean, you can only give power to certain things, and I don't give power to what you may assume. Now you treat me different, and you approach me different. I might have to handle you as such.
Stereotypes historically are rooted in hate and ignorance, but that goes two ways too. The same way as even stereotypes about other peoples and other races too. I just wouldn't pay attention to them. You know what I mean? You can't judge anybody a book by its cover. You know what I'm saying? Without knowing the person underneath and making judgments like that. It's kind of like I said, it's rooted in ignorance and hate. So don't let it mess with your peace. I wouldn't even pay any attention to it.
Well, Bun, that was deep. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I enjoyed that. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you had your hand raised.
Yes, so my question goes out to all of you. How do you feel about police brutality towards our brothers that are innocent and only a threat to them because of our skin color?
You hitting the nail with the hammer right now. That's the root of all of this. I mean, this is what has been since the beginning, was police brutality and systematic oppression, and just how we've seen it over and over again. Bill Castile, Ahmaud Arbery. I mean, it's just sad that you just see another name every other week. Then you have the situation that happened in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago that Travis was just talking about. Not a couple of weeks, I'm sorry, a couple of days ago. And I feel like that's the boiling point and of where we've reached today, is that America can't hide from it anymore. Everyone is being aware of the situation. You can't hide from it. And that's the meaning behind the whole movement, and why players like myself, Travis, Bun B, generations of people of color, and now for the first time, the majority people, white people and other races, are all fighting for changes to be made, because it's sickening, it's dehumanizing, it's not fair from every angle that you look at it, and that's the change that we're all needing to fight for and to see.
You know, another thing, kids, I know it's something that I don't know, it bothers me a little bit. And Justin, you correct me if I'm wrong. You know, when certain people, certain white folks or people not of color say, well, I don't see color. That bothers me more than anything else because guess what? If you don't see color, you don't see me. My colors is also part of my definition. It's also what defines me. It's also who I am. It's also a part of my struggle. It's also part of my greatness. And for you not to see that, you don't see me. You don't see who I am. You don't see the things that I've been through. And I think that right there, that because you hear that, and I know all y'all have heard it from your white friends or your non-black friends say, well, I don't see color. I just see you. Well, you don't see me if you don't see my color. You don't see me if you don't see my color. I'm black and I'm proud, and I need you to know that. I need you to know where I come from. I need you to know what my struggle has been and what my journey has been. Because then when you understand and you acknowledge, then now you can be on my level. Now you can change the narrative. Now you can help me. But until you see me as me, you can't never help me.
Yeah, truly healing and growth comes from an understanding from the root of where all this began, and tackling it down to the very essence of the problem, which was that we had a 400 year delay. Everyone else had a 400-year head start on us, and that has caused a systematic issue that has put us into confinement of where we are today, and still affects the way that Black people are treated today. You know, and that's all we're trying. We're trying to have reparations. We're trying to catch up, essentially. And it's not a crime to ask to be equal.
Well, you guys, these are all, great conversations, great points. And I want to kind of close a couple more things I want to touch on, but you have some big platforms. We talked about Cal McNair's platform, but you each have a platform. These kids are doing this new initiative about being the change you want to see. What kind of advice can you give them as to how they can be that change, be change agents, and make a difference?
I would say just be you, guys. Be you. Be great leaders in the community. The odds are against you, and I don't want to let you know the odds are against you, but know that, like my father once told me, you have to be head and shoulders above the rest. So at the end of the day is, you got to keep striving for greatness. You got to take advantage of the opportunities so you can get the proper opportunities. Because they're not giving us any leeway. They're not giving us any slack when it comes to, you get certain kids that are able to falter in their steps and then be able to still become great. So I would say keep doing what y'all doing. This is a great step. This is a great start in your development and in your maturation process to become leaders in your community, and just hold people accountable. Continue to hold people accountable. In the locker room, as coaches and players, we all have a saying called the best ability is accountability. And can I count on you to be who you're supposed to be? Can I count on Justice and Ayanna to be good leaders? Reggie and Allura to be good motivators? Miss Bonner to be a great speaker. Heaven and Isaiah to be strong individuals. Mr. Roberts, can I count on you just to do everything all of the above? So I think that's the biggest thing is continue on this path, but continue to hold each other accountable. Be each other's spotter. When you go in the weight room, you don't put weights on the bar without having a good spotter, right? In the days, if you put heavy weights on, you get the heavy lifting, you got to have a spotter, somebody to make sure you can protect yourself, somebody to make sure you get the job done. So be each other's spotter and help each other move this weight of the world and move it forward. So that would be my only saying is to be each other's spotter just so you can make sure you move the needle forward.
Yeah, my final thoughts would just be kind of just piggybacking off of that. Be strong, be confident, be understanding, always be respectful, but be unapologetic about who you are and what you're fighting for.
A teammate of Justin's, Cullen Gillespie, they're partners of ours. He's partnered up with Energy Ogre, and they want to be a part of what you guys are doing at the Boys and Girls Club and help not only what you're doing with the Be the Change that you want to see initiative, but he's got something for you guys.
But thanks for having me on, and I love what you guys are doing for the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston. It's a great organization that impacts the lives of today's youth, and the fact that y'all are giving them a chance to kind of speak on the things that they have to deal with on a daily basis that not everyone has to deal with and not everyone can understand. It's super empowering. So without further ado, on behalf of myself and Energy Ogre, we'd like to donate to the cause, the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston, and hopefully we can further their mission and make an impact on some kids' lives.
Cullen and everyone over at Energy Ogre, I just want to thank you for your contribution to the Boys and Girls Club. It's a great cause, and I would like to show my appreciation for that.
All right, and Bun, I know you're back, and we are losing you, I'm never going to be an advocate to my kids for driving while on your cell phone, so I'm going to let it.
Well, I'm not driving. Queenie's driving, so I'm in the passenger.
All right, the rest of y'all don't ever do that, but Bun, go ahead and finish up with what you were saying.
I applaud y'all for being engaged in this conversation, and I encourage you to go out and be the best you can be. And I hope one of you guys are a doctor that can save my life. I hope one of you guys end up being a lawyer to help me with a legal situation. But the world is yours, man. You can be anything you want in this world. Don't let anyone tell you different. And I pray for y'all, and I wish you nothing but the best in this world.
All right. Well, great conversations. You guys, all you kids are all incredible. Everything Bun said, I couldn't agree with more. We are proud of all of you for even just being here today and doing this. So go out there, be that change agent, and you know that you can tap into any one of us. I know Justin offered to come out and speak to you guys. Bun and Travis are both always very accessible and very reachable. I'm always here to help facilitate any of that or to offer anything. So thank you all for being here. Justin, Travis, Bun, my friends, we all go back a long way, and I appreciate you stepping up and helping me do this.
I appreciate you having us, Patty. Thank you, kids, for your time. I know time is important, and especially right now. But I just appreciate you for having all of us.
Yeah, 100%. Appreciate you, Patty, and thank you too to all you kids at the Boys and Girls Club for your attentiveness and those great questions that you asked. Hope we were able to help you guys with some answers today.
Yeah, thank you, Patty, for the platform, allowing us to speak our truth to these kids, allowing them to speak their truth to us. And again, kids, I pray for you. I wish you guys nothing but the best. I can't wait to see who you guys grow into and what you become. And I'll be able to be like, I remember them. I knew them when they were young. And I remember when they were teenagers. And then look at them.
I remember when they had hair.
All right. Thanks, everybody. All right, great stuff, some great conversations, and I really want to thank Bun B, I want to thank Travis Johnson, I want to thank Justin Reed, and I want to thank the kids from the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston. We'll see y'all next week.